Hi, I'm Owlbear Rogue. Welcome to the cave. This is part 2 of Running the Carnival, The Wild Beyond the Witchlight. In part 1, we talked about the bones of the carnival, the structural and technical elements you need to keep in mind while you're running this part of the adventure. In this video, we're going to put some meat on those bones. We're going to talk about the origins of the carnival and the Fey realm that lives beyond it. We're going to talk about important NPCs, info your PCs really need, and a little bit about the atmosphere of the carnival. I'm about to drop some really big spoilers, and I swear if you are playing in this campaign, you get on out of here. This is for your DMs. DM, let's talk about the origins. This was a Fey carnival that was run by an Eladrin elf named Isolde. Isolde's carnival traveled between the planes, spreading whimsy and joy. At the same time, there existed a darker carnival, a shadow carnival, run by two Shadowkai elves that we will come to know as Mr. Witch and Mr. Light. The book gives you a deep dive on their backstories, fun to know as a DM, nothing to stress over, it's not really critical. Over time, these two carnivals would pass each other in the night, and Isolde and Mr. Witch and Mr. Light got to know each other and become friends. Eventually, they decided it would be fun to switch carnivals for a little while. Isolde would go and run the Shadow Carnival, and Mr. Witch and Mr. Light would run the Fey Carnival, just until the two carnivals crossed paths once again. What happened, though, was that Mr. Witch and Mr. Light discovered they really loved this lighter bit of whimsy in the Fey Carnival. I like to imagine that the carnival smoothed out a lot of their edges, and they added a few extra shadows to the dark recesses of the carnival. They didn't want to leave. They didn't want to run back into Isolde and go back to their old life. And as we speak at the beginning of our adventure, Mr. Witch and Mr. Light are doing everything in their power to stay exactly where they are at the Witchlight Carnival. There is a portal in this carnival to a magical world called Prismeer that has a story of its own. Prismeer was created by someone named Tasha. Yes, that's right, the very famous Tasha with her cauldron of many things. Tasha is the adopted daughter of Baba Yaga, who is the queen of all hags. She is also Baba Yaga's favorite, even though she's adopted. And she's grown enormously in power. And one of the things she's done is carve out this kingdom of Prismeer, which she has ruled in the guise of being an archfey named Zybilna. So you're going to hear a lot about Zybilna. Zybilna and Tasha are one and the same. Looking on and watching all of this success with a jealous eye are three hags, also daughters of Baba Yaga. Again, she's the queen of all hags. These three sisters are called the Hourglass Coven. They bided their time, they watched, they played the politics, and eventually they were able to somehow overthrow Zybilna and take Prismeer for themselves. It's not really critical to know at this juncture exactly what has happened to Zybilna, where she is, but they are now in charge of Prismeer, and they have split the kingdom into three sections named Hither, Thither, and Yon, with each hag ruling over a different part of the land. Prismeer is, believe it or not, a little worse for wear for now being run by three nasty hags. And these hags are aware that Mr. Witch and Mr. Light do not want to go back to their old carnival. And they've used that information to manipulate them, twist their arm, and allow the hags to send little thieves, little representatives into the carnival. The deal they've made with Mr. Witch and Mr. Light is that those thieves are only supposed to mess with guests who have snuck in or generally being rude and causing trouble. But as time has passed, the hags and their little thieves have become a little bit bolder, and the carnival is really starting to suffer for it. So that's a little bit about our origin story with the Carnival and Prismeer. This is the situation that your players are going to be discovering and are going to hopefully be helping to set to right. Who are the important NPCs in this part of the adventure? There's a lot of NPCs. I think there's about 20 named NPCs. I'm going to tell you the ones that I think are really critical that you need to do a deep dive on. I'm not going to tell you everything there is to know about them, but these are the ones you really, really need to know about. The first is Eliwick Tumblestrum. She is a planeswalker and a bard, and when she strums her instrument, sometimes it sings prophecies to her. She has foreseen that your player characters are the key to unraveling and fixing everything that's going on in Prismeer. She is just genuinely and generally offended by what's going on there, and she would like to see it fixed. She's going to be the glue that brings your players together by telling them that they have this destiny, by bringing them together as a group. And she needs to pop up here and there, possibly throughout the carnival, whenever your players lose track a little bit. They're not quite sure where to go next. Eliwick Tumblestrum can help them out. In the very beginning, she is going to give tickets to all of your player characters and leave a little note for them at the ticket stand with our other important NPC, Nicholas Midnight. He's a hilarious elderly goblin that runs the ticket stand, and he's important mechanically because he's going to pull the group together, give them their tickets and their notes from Eliwick, let them know that they're meant to spend the evening exploring the carnival together, even if they didn't all arrive together and don't know each other. And he's also a chance to start to create that atmosphere we were talking about in the beginning. He's the first NPC they're going to encounter, so if you really make him rich and whimsical, it's going to start to open the doors of the carnival for your players. Obviously, Mr. Witch and Mr. Light are pretty big players in all of this. NPCs you really need to know about. And the Thieves of the Coven. These are the creatures that belong to the hags that are sneaking in, stealing things, stealing people sometimes, and generally causing trouble. Your players will see them causing trouble, and that will be the main thing driving them through the plot of this first section. Bringing them into contact with Mr. Witch and Mr. Light, and beyond that, into the portal to Prismeer. Burley. Burley's important. Burley's kind of like the general manager of the carnival. He's very close with Mr. Witch and Mr. Light, and he knows that something is not right with them. I've made a little bit of a change to Mr. Witch and Mr. Light and the pocket watch that they own. In the book, the pocket watch is in charge of setting up the carnival and tearing down the carnival very quickly so that it can move from plane to plane. And Burley has the idea, he can tell something's wrong with Mr. Witch and Mr. Light. He can tell something's wrong at the carnival. He himself has had a brother, Hurley, disappear. He knows things aren't right, and he knows they know more than they're saying. He can sense that they've been somehow backed into a corner, and he feels if he can just get a little leverage on them, they'll be able to help him out. The way I play it, I have Mr. Witch and Mr. Light, who do not like what's going on, try really, really hard to get Burley to steal the pocket watch so that they'll be forced to tell him what's going on. They're leaving it out in the open, they're leaving a lot of hints, they're saying really loudly they hope no one takes it. And Burley, who's really committed to them and to the carnival, is very upset and distraught by this and passes that information on to your PCs. Every time my PCs have immediately been willing to say, oh, yeah, no problem. I'll go steal the pocket watch. Another little thing I've tweaked and added here is I have made the pocket watch not something that's in charge of setup and takedown of the carnival. I've actually placed the carnival itself inside the pocket watch. If you've ever seen The Men in Black, the whole plot is that there's a cat that has a marble on its collar, and inside the marble is the universe. It's the same idea here. The carnival is inside the pocket watch, and the pocket watch is inside the carnival. It's a little bit of a strange conundrum. I've done this because first of all, it encourages your players when they pick it up and there's a little bit of a shake in the world to be very, very careful with this particular thing. I also thought it would be interesting if Mr. Witch and Mr. Light had even more of a debt to either the hags or possibly even Zybilna. You could make it Zybilna if that was more interesting to you. They don't want to run into the other carnival again, so they've made a deal either with Zybilna or the hags to place the carnival into this pocket realm inside the pocket watch, where it will never travel around. It will never meet the other carnival, and they'll always be able to stay where they are. I think that ups the ante in some interesting ways. You can take or leave that idea. But Burley's your key to getting that part of the plot going. Mr. Witch and Mr. Light can then give up a lot of information, and they can help your characters get through the portal into Prismeer and get things started. Those are the really important ones. I'm going to give an honorable mention to Durlagron. Durlagron is a kitty cat, a displacer beast, who is in charge of lost things at the carnival. Children that get lost come and stay with her for a while until their parents come to get them. Lost things, she guards them until their owners show up. Obviously, the people who made this adventure think she's important. She takes up the entire cover, the alternate cover of The Wild Beyond the Witchlight, the book that special edition you got from your local game store. I think she's on the other cover as well, but she is the whole cover of the special edition. And she has some information. She's also worried about Mr. Witch and Mr. Light. The reason I really include her is like Burley, she has had a loved one disappear from the carnival. She had a kitten. It's actually kind of really sad. Wild Beyond the Witchlight sometimes just really throws things at your feelings. She had a kitten go missing a long time ago. Later on, your players can find that kitten many chapters into the adventure. So if you want to include the Displacer Beast kitten later on, you need to make sure they meet Durla. We're buddies. I call her Durla for short. They have to meet her here in this part of the adventure. Now that we've got our main NPCs, you might have noticed, if you are familiar at all with this adventure, that I have left one out that most people would probably include here. The NPC's name is Kettlesteam. Very short story. Kettlesteam is a warlock with a pact with Zybilna/Tasha, who has made their way to the carnival and is trying to cause enough trouble to bully Mr. Witch and Mr. Light into letting her into Prismeer so she can try to sort out what's going on. I don't include her because, this might be a hot take here, I don't include Kettlesteam in this anymore. I don't use Kettlesteam at all. The first time I ran it, I included her, and the plot here, there is so much going on. There's so much information. I don't think that she's necessary at all. I think she just adds to the chaos and takes away from your players' time actually doing some of the games and things at the carnival. So, again, take or leave that. I don't include Kettlesteam. Not only do I not include her in the list of important NPCs, I don't include her at all. Now that we've got those important NPCs, what is the information your players really need to know? Like I just said, there's a ton of information to be found about the situation with Prismeer and the carnival at a lot of different places in the story. I honestly think they include a little too much information here. You have an entire adventure to control the flow of information to your players. I would pare back a little bit what they find out. All they really need to know is about the hags and Prismeer, that it's causing trouble in this place called Prismeer. It's causing trouble at the carnival. They are destined somehow to be a part of this. There's a portal. They need to get through it and start investigating. If they get all of that, you're really golden. As long as you get them through the portal, everything else can be accounted for later. If there's anything you meant for them to find out that they didn't, just give it to them from a different source later on in the story. You've got months and months to get all that information to them. All right. So that is the main meat of this part of the story. Let's talk a little bit about the atmosphere. I love the atmosphere of the carnival. The whole magical vibe of a Fae carnival is really the selling point of this adventure. There are several tools they give you to help build atmosphere. One is there are roll tables. So if you are looking for a little detail to include here and there as your players are walking around, maybe something like, oh, there's performers on stilts who are dressed like giant birds handing out magic eggs or something like that. There's some roll tables to find those little details. I would make some up like I did just now and throw them in to make it your own carnival too. And there are little written descriptions of different areas in the book, pre-written for you. They're really lovely. You can just read them the way they are, and that helps to build atmosphere too. Music and soundscape is a huge way I bring atmosphere to this part of the game. There are playlists on YouTube you can go on there that have specifically been geared towards this adventure. There's a lot of great stuff on there. Check that out. All right, I think we've finally done it. I think we've gone through the bones and the meat, and we have resurrected this wild Witchlight carnival. Most importantly, remember that everyone should be having fun. That is really at the heart, I hope, of any adventure you have. Definitely at the heart of this whimsical, magical adventure called Wild Beyond the Witchlight. And everyone having fun includes you, the DM. Just because you have to be the carnival doesn't mean you can't enjoy the carnival. You're getting to bring this world to life, and your players are getting to experience it. It should be a really special thing. So take time to breathe. Don't stress too much. It's the beginning of a long adventure. There's nothing that you can mess up here that you can't unscrew later on. Just take a breath, put on some music, eat a cupcake, and enjoy the ride. All right, hopefully you found this useful. In a few weeks, we'll dive into the next chapter of the book. We'll talk about how to run hither. In the meantime, thank you for exploring the feminine urge to play Dungeons & Dragons with me, Owlbear Rogue.